Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about reproduction in plants. That how the plants will reproduce. But basically what is reproduction? Reproduction is a biological process by which any living organism produce their offsprings either sexually or asexually. So reproduction in plant is of two types. One is sexual reproduction and other is asexual reproduction. In this video, we discuss both the type in detail. Before starting that, we will discuss that why reproduction is essential. So first point is for genetic diversity. To increase the variety of species, number of species, reproduction is essential. For adaptation. What is adaptation? If any organism acquire a characteristic or change their self to survive in a particular environment, that is adaptation. So reproduction is essential for adaptation and for the survival of living beings. So starting from sexual reproduction, before explaining this, that sexual reproduction is of two types, self-pollination and cross-pollination, we will discuss that what is pollination. So pollination is the process by which plant reproduce by transfer of pollen from male reproductive part to female reproductive part. It can happen in two ways, that the transfer of pollen happens in same flower or in between two flowers. So pollination is of two type, that is cross pollination and individual pollination, self pollination, that is. So agent of pollinations are that the pollens are transferred by which, so there are four agents. That means there are four ways of transferring of pollen from a male reproductive part to female reproductive part. First is wind. Wind carries pollen between the plant or between the flowers. Insect. Example of such insects are bees, butterflies, moths, beetles, flies. Animals like birds, bats, other animals. And water. These are the agents which can transfer pollen. So, importance of pollination. So, importance of pollination are first for food production and second is for plant reproduction. Now, what is pollination process? There are four steps involved in pollination process. First, production of pollen. Second, dispersal of pollen. Third, deposition of pollen, and fourth is fertilization. By involving these four steps, pollination occurs. So as I discussed above, pollination is of two types. So first one is self-pollination, when pollen from the male reproductive part transfer to female reproductive part in same flower, that is self-pollination. Advantages of self-pollination is guaranteed reproduction, that the reproduction occurs 100%, increased seed production and preservation of genetic traits, that the same type of flower is reproduced. Here is a diagram that is showing the self-pollination. Here you can see that pollen from the anther of the flower transferred to stigma of the same flower. That's why it is known as self-pollination. Here, some disadvantages also of self-pollination, that is limited genetic diversity. By self-pollination, no change in genetic traits occur. Second is same disease may be transferred to the flower. These are the disadvantages. Examples of plant that reproduce by self-pollination are tomatoes, roses, cucumbers, peppers, etc. Second type of pollination is cross-pollination. What is cross-pollination? When the pollen from the male reproductive part transfer to the female reproductive part of other flower, then that type of pollination is known as cross-pollination. There are 4 advantages of cross-pollination. First is increased genetic diversity. Genes may be changed and a variety of genes may be produced. Plant vigor improved, seed production improved, and adaptation to changing environment happens by cross-pollination. Examples of plant that reproduce by cross-pollinations are apples, pear, plum, cherries, grapes, strawberries, and etc. Here is a diagram that is representing self-pollination. So you can see here that the pollen from anther of a flower transfers to stigma of another flower. That's why this is known as cross-pollination, because 2 flowers are involved here. Type of cross-pollination. First, there are 4 types. So by insect, then that is insect pollination. By wind, then that is wind pollination. By animal, then that is animal pollination. And by water, then that is water pollination. Here the sexual reproduction of plant completes. Now move further to asexual reproduction. What is asexual reproduction? When only a single kind of parents is involved for the reproduction of a plant, that type of reproduction is known as asexual reproduction. There are 5 ways by which a plant reproduce asexually. So first is vegetative propagation. That is a type of asexual reproduction in plant where some plant parts are used to regrow a new plant. For example, stem. The cutting of stem is used to regrow a new plant. For example, roses, African violets. Leaves, roots. For example, sweet potatoes and guavas regrow by using the roots of old plant. Advantages of vegetative propagation: that fast multiplication, genetic uniformity, easy to propagate, and preserves desirable traits. Now, the second type of asexual reproduction is budding. Budding is a type of asexual reproduction in plants where a new plant grows from a bud on the parent plant. Here, a little diagram is shown to you in which you see a little bud start growing in parent hydra, developed into a bud, then a new bud, and finally into a new hydra. So budding is of 2 types, that is vegetative budding and floral budding. Now, third type of asexual reproduction is apomixis. Apomixis is a type of reproduction in plant where seed produced without fertilization, meaning that the plant reproduces without the involvement of pollen or sperm. This type of reproduction is known as apomixis. Several ways of apomixis are agomospermy, vegetative apomixis, or somatic apomixis. Common in plants like grasses, roses, citrus. Advantages of apomixis is fast reproduction, that by using this kind of asexual reproduction, plants reproduce very fastly. Genetic uniformity remains in this type of reproduction process, and increased seed production happens if the plant reproduced by this kind of asexual reproduction. Now, the fourth type of asexual reproduction is fragmentation. Here you can see a diagram where a part is divided in 2 fragments. So from a single parent, two fragments are produces. So when two fragments are produced from a single one, that type of reproduction is known as fragmentation. Happens in potatoes, sweet potatoes, bamboo and grasses. There are type of fragmentation. That means fragmentations can happen by root, by stem and by leaf. Few advantages of fragmentation are fast multiplication, genetic uniformity and easy propagation. And the last method of asexual reproduction is spore formation. Spore formation is a type of asexual reproduction in plant, fungi and some other organisms. Spores are similar to seeds, but they are single cells that can grow into new individual without fertilization. Two type of spore: plant spore formation and fungal spore formation. Plant spore formation happens in ferns, mosses and algae. Fungal spore formation happens in mold, yeast and mushroom. Here is a diagram representing spore formation. There are two types of spore: endospores and exospores. What are endospores? That are formed within the parent cell, typically of bacteria and some fungi, and exospores are formed outside the parent cell. Few advantages of spore formations are: first, rapid multiplication; second, genetic diversity; and third is adaptation. So in this video we have discussed about type of reproduction in plant. These are of two types, sexual and asexual, and we have discussed both of them in detail. Hope this video is useful to you. Thank you.